Hey everyone, and welcome to Madrid. Today I'll be flying out of Barajas Airport aboard the Spanish airline Iberojet. This carrier has a bit of an infamous reputation, and looking online, all you'll pretty much see is one bad review after another. From rude staff to poorly maintained aircraft, these passenger testimonials paint a picture of an airline that's best to be avoided. But their fares are cheap, and I was able to buy a ticket to Cancun for about half the price of their competitors, so I decided to give it a go. When I arrived at the airport, I was greeted with a massive queue at the bag drop. They don't offer online check-in, so if you want to fly with this airline, make sure you get to the airport early. Iberojet previously operated as Evelop until last year, and you can book flights with them to mainly holiday destinations. They also operate charter flights, and Norwegian actually contracted Evelop to fly on some of their routes a few years ago when they were experiencing aircraft issues. They have an entirely Airbus fleet, including the A350-900, which I'll be flying on today. When I got to the gate, I was greeted by another massive line as boarding had already begun. I actually think they handled this well though. Boarding was done by group, and I was heading to the plane in no time at all. As I mentioned before, I'll be flying on an A350 to Mexico today, and this plane is only about a year and a half old. Iberojet also operate older A330s on long-haul routes, and I suspect that a lot of the complaints I read online are about one of these jets. I mean, this A350 looks gorgeous, and there can't be that much wrong with such a new plane. You can pay to reserve a seat ahead of time from €20, but I decided to be cheap and left my seat selection to chance, which landed me right here in the middle. This A350 is configured in an all-economy layout, and has a total of 432 seats. They advertise a premium section, but from what I can tell, it's basically just economy with a few extra perks. The cabin doors were closed shortly after I took my seat, and the crew prepped the plane for this roughly 10-hour flight. The safety video included a funny but unfortunately all too necessary section on appropriate passenger behavior while in flight. It's sad that in this day and age, this sort of thing needs to be broadcast. If you fly in or out of Madrid anytime soon, then you might get a chance to see some of the A380s that British Airways has stored here. I really hope that these beauties are returned to service, although I'm sure I'll get some hate in the comments section for saying that. And now let's take a closer look around the cabin. Fortunately, this afternoon's flight wasn't fully booked, and the girl who was sitting next to me moved to another row, so I was able to switch to the window seat. Switching seats was definitely a point of contention when I read the reviews of Iberojet. One person even claimed that the flight attendants wouldn't let him move because he wasn't a native Spanish speaker. However, we asked an air hostess on our flight if we were allowed to switch seats, and she said it was fine just as long as we didn't move to another cabin. We saw a bunch of other people move to different seats as well, and no one yelled at them. In terms of the seat, I thought it was pretty nice considering how cheap Iberojet sells their tickets for. They recline, and have adjustable headrests. The legroom isn't terrible either. There's also a nice amount of space to store your personal items. The tray table pulls out from in front of you, and each seat has its own IFE system. There's also a USB port in the monitor, and that's the only power source you have as there's no universal outlet anywhere else. Another drawback is that the monitor isn't adjustable, so if the person in front of you reclines their seat, it can be a little difficult to view the screen. There's also no individual air nozzles, and it did get a little hot during this flight. But as I mentioned before, this was a nice seat overall, and I also appreciated that everyone received a pillow and a blanket and a hygiene kit. After we took off, we flew into some turbulence, so the meal service was delayed, but as soon as things cleared, the crew served everyone some complimentary drinks and lunch. You had a choice of either pasta or chicken, and each meal came with bread and a little piece of cake. Premium meals are available for around €20, but after seeing some in person, they really didn't seem worth the money. You can also buy some other snacks, but I thought the food I got for free was fine. The cabin on the A350 is beautiful. It's bright, spacious, and I love the mood lighting that Iberojet opted for. There's 9 lavatories in total, and I saw the crew clean them several times throughout the flight. This was a long flight, so I got to know the IFE system pretty well. It was intuitive and the touchscreen was very responsive, but there was definitely a limited selection. In total, there were only 39 movies available and a few TV shows. They did offer some games though, and there was Wi-Fi, but I couldn't get it to work. The system also crashed mid-flight for about half an hour, but the crew was able to fix it. About 2.5 hours before landing, a second meal was served. We received these snack boxes that had a ham sandwich, a brownie, and a bottle of water inside. There weren't any other options available, but speaking with the crew, they told us that you can order a different meal 72 hours in advance if you have any special dietary needs. As I brought up earlier, there was a lot of criticism in the reviews that I read about the crew, but I only have positive things to say about them. They are professional, engaging, and courteous. I was a little worried when I was getting ready for this flight, but it actually wasn't bad at all. The crew was nice, the food was decent, and the A350 was a pleasure to fly on. I'm not trying to imply that all the negative reviews out there are wrong or embellished. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of truth in them considering how many of them there are. But I think that Iberojet has learned from their mistakes and has taken steps to improve their service. Or maybe my expectations were so low that I just didn't mind this flight at all. Who knows? Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching and take care everyone.